joking now?
I'm not joking you. ठीक है अब
Come on, start it.
अच्छा ये start हो गया है. Right.
People, let's do this. You have to start it. We don't have to start it.
Alright, let's do this.
Yeah, let's do this.
People, let's do this.
People, let's do this. Oh, yeah.
Alright.
All right.
Oh yeah. Alright, बस अब हो गया?
No.
हो गया.
No, let's do now.
क्या?
Let's do this.
Do what?
Do this.
क्या ये? हाँ नहीं बस ये हो गया. Alright, people. ठीक है?
No.
आपको भी जाना है.
We have to say.
Right, okay, come on. Zara, मेरी जान, अब जाओ. दरवाजा बंद कर दो, ठीक है? Okay.
Bye.
Bye now. जाओ जाओ. Okay. Finally, I've got rid of her. Alright. So, ahlan wa sahlan bikum. Ahlan wa sahlan people. Let me just share this. Getting started. So, I'm just gonna share this. Shouldn't take long. Alright. There it is. Just about to. Right, so people, click like, click share, get this out there whilst I'm just sharing this onto my page. Okay. So almost done. Now is that done? Naam. Alright, so that's done. Inna alhamdulillahi wa kafah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulih al-Mustafa wa ala ibadihi alladhina irtada wa man bihudahum ihtada wa bi athari ahli al-Madinah iqtafa wa ba'd فالسلام الله على القوم أهلا وسهلا بكم أهلا وسهلا بكم people. Right, so marhaban, marhaban. Just waiting for people to just tune in whilst I just set up my drinks here. Special wow, special brew I'm just making myself here. Ooh, 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 ooh. Almost just spilled a bit almost. Can't be having that, folks. Alright, that's done. This will help get me into form. Right, so bienvenidos a todos. Khushamadid and swagatam people, swagatam. We are back. Monday nights it is. What does my shirt say? God knows. What does it say? Vikings. Alright. So my feed, some people, you always write about my haters, huh? One will always have haters in this world. I'm actually coming to, thinking about it, I'm actually very grateful to my haters. On a serious note, I am kind of grateful to them. They take my message so far and wide, and they do it for free, and they do it with a passion. They're like, it's amazing. I sometimes just, I think, wow, like, I feel like just making a check out to them or something, saying like, hey, thanks, keep up the good work. I've got so much more for you to hate at, don't worry, it's coming. People, such is the life of this world. Alright, Sheikh Anis is in the house. Ahlan wa sahlan, people. An amazing, gifted, young British-born scholar is in the house. Do reach out to him with questions. Let him, inshallah, illuminate you with his knowledge. Right, so what is the definition of a Molvi? Molvi, I suppose it's like a Maulana type of person, just another title, Molvi. Like we've got a few Molvis. Sometimes it's maybe a Maulana with a bit more of that backwards home mentality still kind of overwhelming them. Right, so those of you just tuning in, if you can click like, click share, people, let's get some of this out there. We're going to deal with some of these questions, what's been going on. Yep, so right, let's test your faith, people, because you know when you share my stuff, that truly goes to show, it's like it's the hallmark, almost like it's the benchmark of just saying like, I don't give a damn. That forget the world, I don't give a damn. I'll just click like and share Mufti Abu Layth stuff. That's because boy, I lose friends. Don't worry about it. Those friends are no real friends. Those friends are no real friends. People who can't tolerate a difference of opinion, these people, they ain't worthy of being called friends, really. But they are helpful, like I said. They're helpful motivators. Haters are your motivators. That's it. But I mean, I gotta say, that said, sometimes I don't share the kind of support that people are giving, which makes it look like sometimes there's just haters. No, there's much more support out there by people, amazing people. I actually wanted to that reminds me, I've brought up here Sarah, I don't know, I'm going to be pronouncing it probably wrong, Maneme, I think, who is a convert. Really, I received this gift, an amazing gift. Shukran. I really, you didn't have to do this. May Allah bless you and your family. If you're into that kind of exotic, it's not cannabis, people. Some of you are probably thinking, what? Oh, no. But shukran once again. May Allah bless you and your family and keep you guys forever smiling. So, shukran. Right, so what's going down, people? What's going on? What do I think about Javed Ghamidi Sahib? I think Javed, Sheikh or Allama Javed Ghamidi Sahib is amazing. I think he's amazing. I think he stands as a testimony, really, to what countries like Pakistan can produce if they put their mind to it. That's the only thing. So Pakistan doesn't really, in contrast with the regular kind of, the hate-filled Molvis that you get sometimes, he is amazing that countries like Pakistan can produce him. And he had to leave Pakistan, like almost an imposed exile, because people wanted to murder him. I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? The religion, what it does to people, what it does. How was my visit to Leicester? It was amazing. I went down just over the weekend, I mean Friday night, met up with some amazing ulama, amongst them Sheikh Abdul Hamid, an amazing young up and rising scholar from the Midlands and the UK. He's on Facebook, active, and somebody you should reach out to. And I think it was amazing. There were several other ulama there. I don't want to just bring them into it just in case they become blacklisted. No. You know, it's amazing. People have this this kind of schoolyard mentality. Like, you can't be, why are you being friends with him for? You can't be friends with him. If you won't be friends with me, you can't be friends with him. But that's what it's like. It's amazing. These are religious folks who are like that. They're like, will you be friends with him? You can't be friends with him. You're not your friend now. So the amount of blackmailing that goes on is amazing. It's shocking. But that does go on, unfortunately. So, you know, it was an amazing visit. I loved it. Had some awesome discussions, some questions. It's been, I love generally meeting up, chilling out with people, getting to see people's points of views, you know, just having discussions. I'm all about that, people. I'm all about that. In fact, I've got this coming Friday. I've got a hangout session. So hang out with Mufti Abu Layth, people. So it should be called How to Get Blacklisted. But it's a hangout, chill out session. So you can... Alright, Ustad Mudathir is in the house. Ahlan wa sahlan, ahlan wa sahlan. Right, so it's going to be a meetup session I've got going on. It'll be in Birmingham, in this centre called the Ark. I have put it up on Facebook. It's in the Al-Maliki area, but you can reach out to Muhammad Shaban if you've got any questions or details. It's not, you don't need to kind of book before coming, but it's good to reach out so we have an idea of people, how many people to come, so we can have some kind of food and snacks and things like that in mind. And generally we'll just chill out. It's very informal. It's just you get to ask questions or chat or discuss, or if you've got anything private that you'd like to discuss, there will be separate rooms that you can discuss private matters too. But it's just generally an opportunity. I get a lot of people saying to me that I want to come down, meet you, I want to do this, I want to do, and it's a good opportunity, I guess, that why not pop down, let's have some gup shop. What's up with this angry face? Who's miserable out there? Miserable people. Some miserable people, I feel, I don't know whether to, I just look at them sometimes and think, damn. I think, well, well, you know what? I think that if I was you, I'd probably hate me too. Anyway, let's move on. So what's going down, people? चलो आप वहाँ जाओ तो दिखा दो. आप right. जाओ दरवाजा बंद करो. दरवाजा बंद. अच्छा वहाँ जाओ. Oh, see, this is what happens when you don't lock the door. So, right. So, hey, what's been going on? Okay, so politics, people. Politics in the UK. Sajid Javid. Right, shukran. Right now, Sajid Javid has been appointed a Pakistani I believe British-born Pakistani, has been appointed the Home Secretary of the UK. Whoa! Woo! All right. So it's a very interesting kind of, I think it's an interesting time. It's a mixed emotion, because on one hand, I think it's a huge step for anybody of an ethnic minority, let alone a Muslim, to be awarded really such a position, one of the most key positions in the entire country, really, arguably after the Prime Minister. So, wow. So it is an awesome kind of time on one hand. I think definitely it's an amazing achievement. There is a flip side. I think there's a, you've got to be kind of, you can't be naive. You have to be aware that what kind of a name is Sajida is saying what kind of a name is Sajid. So you see, we're all aware of the Windrush kind of fiasco that's been going on, and the final Rudd, the previous Home Secretary, has resigned. There's been a huge embarrassment, really. The government, the Tories have, it's a joke what they've been doing. This latest, those of you who are unfamiliar with this whole Windrush immigration kind of fiasco that's been happening, it's basically to do with immigrants who came over on, and the reason it's called Windrush is to do with the ship. It's a particular ship that it took its name from, and the ship, I believe, was actually captured. I think it may have been a German ship or something, but it was captured in the World War, and after the World War they named it Empire Windrush. And this ship would sail to the Caribbean, and it would often come back just empty. It would kind of take people, there were soldiers over there, and it was a part of the Commonwealth. So after World War II, there was a huge amount of infrastructure needed within this country that needed to be built. There was a great amount of work that was needed. A labour force was required. So the British began to advertise in their colonies. So they began to advertise things like that, why don't you come over and work in the UK, stuff like this. Now, so initially a few hundred, I think 400 or so people from the Caribbean came over, and then between the years, I think it was 1948 or something till about 1970, they say about 500,000 people came over. This is what allegedly some records say. Now, those people that came over because Jamaica and the Caribbean was a part of the Commonwealth, so they were deemed British, if you like. So when they came over here, obviously, and then the whole racism and everything and that kind of ensued, but they were kind of held as, you could say, like para-citizens, like citizens that were already. And I don't know why. I don't know why. For some reason, all these years they weren't given passports. But recently, recently with Theresa May, what she's done is she's really tried to clamp down on immigration, and she said that anybody we're going to deport people unless they can fully prove their residency and all these kind of requirements, and they've started shipping people off. But amongst these people, they've sent back several people who are from that Windrush kind of generation. And the extra kind of shocking element to all of this is that they've been asked, so these Caribbean people who've lived here for decades on end, one person who'd lived here about 60 years of his life, they've been asked that, okay, prove show us your documents, your landing documents when you got here. And then they've been asked to do this. I mean, it's not funny. But on the other hand, Theresa May herself, in 2010, when coming into power and being Home Secretary, she herself instructed to destroy these landing cards. So on one hand, she is responsible for destroying these landing cards. And then on the other hand, she is the one now as Prime Minister pushing for, okay, well, produce all your landing cards. And the government now have kind of acknowledged, okay, we've sent back some people in error. We've made a few mistakes. So all of this is going on. And the previous Home Secretary just resigned. And so now I think this is kind of like maybe a stunt to say, well, let's get a brown face in there. That could kind of diffuse the tension a bit, because they're obviously being deemed racist. And the way they have dealt with this, and they've lost a lot of confidence and the vote, you know, the kind of the confidence vote, if you like, from especially the ethnic minorities and other people. So maybe by putting a brown face and a Muslim face, it would help them regain a certain amount of popularity. Nevertheless, an interesting spectacle, people. An interesting spectacle. So that's, I think it's very relevant. So I thought it was worth discussing. But yeah, so what else is going on, folks? What else is going on? Right, the Tories, I don't know how on earth they win. I sure hope they do not win in the next election. Corbyn all the way, people. Oh, Jeremy Corbyn. That's it. Right, so what's going on? Do we get an extra reward for going with the majority position within Islam and less for the minority? Waqas Shah. Good question. Right, majority, minority. These things are not actually to do with how correct something is. The majority and minority are more to do with positions of power within Islam. Okay. Right, so that's what it's to do with. They're not... Who determines a majority position over a ruling? So, for example, it could be small matters within Islam, like do you raise the hands in prayer? You don't raise the hands in prayer. Do you do wudu in a particular way? You don't do wudu. Other things to write out to controversial things within Islam. Can talaq be given in 3 instances in one go? Can that count as one? Can people wipe over regular socks? Can people perform temporary marriages? All of these great controversial debates that have occurred within Islam. Really, looking at the evidence is not determined. I mean, I'm not saying, now, don't get me wrong. Don't get it twisted. Don't get me wrong, people. There are absurd opinions in Islamic fiqh, which I would consider absolutely absurd and dumb and sometimes stupid. And I feel you can say that. There's no harm in calling something stupid, stupid. You understand? Obviously, not these examples. They're not necessarily stupid. But there are other examples within fiqh. So rulings like when people have said you could marry your own daughter if she was born out of wedlock. I think that is absurd and stupid. You know, like people saying if you're really hungry and you're in the land of non-Muslims, you can eat non-Muslim people. I think that is stupid. You know, these kind of things you call stupid is as stupid does. You call it stupid. But what I'm trying to say is how you determine the accuracy of a position of a ruling within Islam is not based on the democratic following it has. So the majority of the people can be following something that doesn't equate to accuracy necessarily. It may be that some opinions, majority of the people are following them, and they do happen to be accurate, the most accurate positions. But it may be that there's several positions that people are just following, and the fact that they're a majority doesn't prove anything. So the majority of the people in the world today reject God, as we understand. So the God of Abraham is rejected by the majority of mankind. So democracy does not prove anything. So when the Prophet began his message, he was an absolute minority. He was considered a rebel against his society. The people would say to him, this is what we found our forefathers upon. You are going against what we found our forefathers upon. And the Prophet was going against what they found their forefathers on, and he was a minority. So people who chose to follow him did so against a majority. So this ruling of majority-minority, it shouldn't be conflated with accuracy. Right, those of you tuning in, if you can click like, I want you to click like, people. Right, where's my finger going? Click share, get that out there, go on, click like, click. And there's a quote actually I wanted to read whilst you're doing that. I think I shared a picture of this, A Little History of Religion. I really like this book, I've been going through it. The thirst, people, the thirst. People tell me I look like Jesus. Well, okay. I've never seen Jesus, to be honest with you, so I couldn't really say if you do look like him or not. Right, Billy is in the house, people. Bilal, Riley, how you doing, man? How you doing? Right, people, click like, click share. I want this out there. Right now, this is A Little History of Religion. It's an amazing book. I'm going through the audio book, and often I sometimes buy the actual book as well whilst I'm going through the audio book. And those of you asking about Shab-e Barat or Laylat Niṣf Sha, I'm going to go through that inshallah in a detailed discussion a little later on inshallah. Right now, but this is an amazing book. It may not be for the faint-hearted of faith. You know, those who are very weak in Iman, it may not be for them. But for other people, it's awesome. But I love this discussion that he was speaking here about Abraham, the wanderer. Okay, Ibrahim alayhi salam. But he said an interesting thing about, you see, because Ibrahim alayhi salam, even in the Quran, is portrayed as somebody who challenges the norms. He is a minority. He's that minority voice rebelling against the majority. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, and it's interesting when because his family had a business of making idols, statues, and selling them. And Ibrahim alayhi salam, in some of the, especially the other traditions of Abraham, that he challenged that and he mocked people. And even in the Quran, he's seen as mocking the idols. Hence, I've argued that it is permissible to mock beliefs that you disagree with. And in other narrations, not Islamic narrations, but other traditions of Abraham, it shows us that a person came in to buy an idol, and Abraham said to him, well, you know, how old are you? And he said, I'm 70. And he said, well, don't you feel kind of stupid buying an idol that was just that was just made yesterday? And, you know, you've had like all decades of life that are much more, and yet you're going to pray to this stupid statue which can't do anything. And the person kind of thought about it and thought, well, you've got a point. So he didn't buy the statue. So it's interesting. But in light of this, I like the way Holloway here, he writes that this was dangerous talk for two reasons. challenging the settled religion of a community is never a popular thing to do. But it's made worse if the criticism also threatens the local economy. Allah, that is so true. It's like, you see, when you challenge religiously held views that may be superstitious, it's never a popular thing. You will get the world of hate. So, and I especially relate to this with all these, what today, the institutionalized religion and all these sects. What they have is not pure Islam. It is a very diluted, adulterated, sectarianized version of Islam. And challenging what they have brings about an excess amount of hatred from people. But sometimes, like when I challenge the concept of demonic possessions, that they don't exist in Islam, this really wound people up. But if you think about it, why? Because it also tapped into an economy, a multi-million-pound international economy that survives, rather thrives, on the back of this superstitious belief of demonic possessions. So it's interesting. But he goes on to say something here, and I wanted to share this. It's to do with how human beings have our emotions. Okay, so he says about, because Abraham is seen historically as the father of monotheism, changing everything. He says this is an important turning point in the human history, and it's worth another moment's thought. It is obvious from our history that humans are good at hating each other. And it is usually those who differ from us in some way who become the objects of our hatred. Race, class, colour, sex, politics, even hair colour can prompt ugly behaviour in us. So can religion. In fact, people, religious hatred is probably the deadliest form of this human disease, because it gives human dislike divine justification. It is one thing to hate people because you don't like their opinions. It is another thing to say God hates them too and wants them exterminated. So it is worth noticing how intense religious conviction can add a dangerous element to human relationships, as another incident from Abraham's story will remind us. I think it's amazing to kind of think, to kind of imagine, understand that this basic concept that human beings, we are almost exclusive as creatures who hate. Animals have a kind of instinct to attack other animals, and they may do that, and they do that, so that's something that does take place. But they don't really have a hatred. Human beings, we are really unique in that field. And then religious hatred is just something else. It is amazing what people will justify by religion. See, that they will say that it's not only me, but God too wants that person dead. Amazing, subhanAllah. I mean, I've had people say about me that and I'm sure about many people, can we make dua that Allah kills this person? Wow. This is religious people. People with religious Muslims, like that pray. Amazing. I've seen sometimes some people who will be imams of communities, yet they will find no qualms whatsoever in attacking people they disagree with, in bad-mouthing them, in backbiting them, in spying on, or, you know, in just spreading, kind of stirring up trouble against them. And they will justify it using religion. Amazing. I see it all the time, honestly. I'm not joking. I see people, sometimes in the past, for example, people will do, in fact, somebody had asked a question as well about some of the hate against me. In the past, I've been a member of certain groups, religious, like let's say forums or WhatsApp groups or things like, with all imams and scholars on there, who just because they disagree with me, and I've left them in the end because they will feel that it's okay to attack, it's okay to try to bully, not in person, God forbid would they try in person, but from a safe distance, to join up, gang up, to attack, to bully, to kind of, let's say, to quote out of context, to do all of these things. They will feel anything is okay against that person specifically because, oh, the religion says it's okay because he's a deviant. But for normal people, backbiting is haram, of course. But for here, no, this ain't backbiting. This is warning against evil. You know, I've had people quote humor, that sometimes I've said humor out of context. They've tried to quote that, stir up... What nonsense. Get a life, people. Get a life. Anyway, let's move on. But it is interesting, and you won't see that amongst regular people in that same way. So regular people, when they hate people, they just hate them. So they'll just say, I hate him. I just hate this person. But religious folks, when they hate people, they'll say, yeah, God gives me the justification, the license to badmouth him. Because this ain't riba, this is al-amr bil-ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar. This is warning against the... But it's true, subhanallah. You'll see, I have people tell me that somebody told me that he's on so many different forums. And every single forum is discussing me. In bad light. That they're dissing and saying, oh my God, Mufti Abu Layth Al-Maliki is causing fitna, fasad, this. I just say, hell yeah. See, the way I see it is like this, people. It's like somebody said that there's two kind of people who walk into a room. One who says, there you are. And the other who says, here I am. So if these small-minded people want to talk about me, at the end of the day, it's me they're talking about. Chalta hai, boss. Chalta hai. You know, you're remembering me. So, and not vice versa. So it's all good. I like it. You know, I like it. Right, now, let's keep... What's going on? Let's take some questions. What is al-wala wa-l-bara? This is one of the most distorted, misrepresented ideas in Islam, which originates amongst the Khawarij, an extremist sect, the first extremist sect in Islam, the grandparents, the great-grandparents of ISIS. They were called Al-Khawarij. They were against people, many of the companions like Ali radiallahu an, Muawiyah radiallahu an, all these people, they were against them. In fact, they were responsible for martyring Sayyidina Ali radiallahu an in the end. And they considered those companions to be kuffar, kafir. They considered anybody who committed a major sin to be a kafir. Sorry, a sin. All sins were major sins. If you committed a sin, you were a kafir. Right, so that was, alright, we got Kaiser Soze in the house. Ahlan wa sahlan, an academic. And Ustad Kalim, ahlan wa sahlan, ahlan wa sahlan. So this was the Khawarij, the early sect, extremist sect within Islam. Right, now, they really were the kind of fathers of this concept that Islam not only teaches you to love, but it teaches you to hate. So al-wala is your allegiance. So having an allegiance for Allah, and wa-l-bara, al-wala wal-bara, and bara is like how people speak about Laylatul Bara'a from the same word, or Surah Tawbah al-Bara'a, which is called Bara'a as well, Bara'atum min Allahi wa Rasulih, that, you know, there is, like, we've got nothing to do with somebody. That's called Bara'a, when you've got nothing to do with. It also comes from, like, being free from. Free as in a blemished kind of sense. So having no fault, being free from. And so they came up with this concept, or they really pushed this concept of that you must hate for the sake of God. Now it's interesting because some things they say you can find, you know, sometimes there can be some hidden truths to some of the things they're saying, but what they're teaching is distorted. So it's how Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anh said to them, kalimatu haqqin urida bihal batil. That the words you use sometimes are true words, but you intend falsehood by them. So it is true, in Islam, there is allegiance to Allah and His Messenger. Our loyalty lies with Allah and His Messenger. That is true. But the way these people use it is false. It is true, in Islam, we hate certain crimes against humanity. But the way these people used this was wrong. They taught you not to just hate a particular crime, but to hate the people. To hate kuffar. To hate Muslims that they considered non-Muslims. They considered most Muslims as kafirs because they were sinful. And this concept, al-wala wal-bara, has been absorbed as well by mainstream Islam with some fluctuation. So some, between themselves, are some Muslims more than others. So everybody, like I said, the concept could be found, like in Islam you could find the concept of having allegiance to Allah, you could find the concept of hating certain crimes against humanity, you could hate obviously murder, you'd hate these things, but it doesn't mean you'd hate the people. But this concept got kind of morphed and then absorbed, and today it is often pushed by certain groups. Today the Salafis push this a lot. I really am highly suspicious of this. I believe this is all false. Some Deobandis sometimes push this, and other people as well. Other extremist groups push this. Deobandis not necessarily extremist groups, although some people amongst them maybe. But generally, I wouldn't generally put them as an extremist group. I wouldn't understand them. Maybe the cult amongst them may be borderline having some issues, but otherwise, no. But other groups as well, like Al-Muhajirun or other jihadist groups, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, all these other groups you can imagine, Hizb ut-Tahrir, all these kind of groups have this understanding of you must hate the people as well. And I would be very wary of this. So if you hear people saying, so, you know, hate people, hate them, hate the kuffar, hate the deviants, hate the Mufti Abu Layth. Be careful, that is an inherited gene that they have from the Khawarij. Okay? So these people have inherited a gene, an ideological gene from the Khawarij, which was the great ancestral ISIS the ISIS ancestral legacy. So be wary, okay, if you start hearing, I mean, you can ask, you can clarify, but be wary. So this is really misused. This is why I distrust this concept entirely. Anybody pushing this, I'm very wary and suspicious of them. Right. Let's see. Right, Musa alayhi salam sent our messenger back to Allah for less praise. You know, these things are a narrative. It doesn't really mean it like that. These hadith have some questions to them as well. How true is it? Or is it symbolic? Was it more symbolism? Like I've said before, the Isra wal-Miraj was a vision. Okay. It was a vision that the Prophet, that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw. This is what Allah Himself says in the Quran, in Surah Al-Isra. وَمَا جَعَلْنَا الرُّؤْيَا وَمَا جَعَلْنَا الرُّؤْيَا الَّتِي عَرَيْنَاكَ إِلَّا فِتْنَةً لِلنَّاسِ. We did not make the vision we showed you except a fitna for people. So that's so the Isra wal Miraj, so the things that took place on that are simply symbolic, or you know, it doesn't mean that Musa alayhi salam was literally doing these things. And these things, these hadith transmitting this, are not entirely conclusive and established like that. But nevertheless, it's symbolism to show that, look, you can handle 5 prayers. That's what it's to show. This is not an Iqbalian position on the Mi'raj. This was actually the understanding of Aisha radiallahu anha. This was the understanding of Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, the companions of the Prophet. So, and people after them, and people like As-Suhaili, Abul Qasim As-Suhaili mentions this. I've read it out in my previous, Qadi Iyad transmits the difference of opinion amongst people. And there were several other scholars that in the past that took this position. Today, for some reason, people are becoming stubborn. Like they want to force everybody to believe this was a physical event. I mean, if you want to believe it's a physical event, that's up to you. The Quran seems very clear that this was a vision. Now, I accept it can be interpreted. I accept that. So I do accept the physical thing to be a view. But I would say the more authentic view by the Quran and the Sunnah is that it was a vision. Okay. And that would make sense as well. So, yeah. Is the Saq an attribute of Allah? Somebody's asking me to check my inbox. Well, I'm not going to do that whilst I'm on live. So, I hope that's okay. By vision, you mean the soul was ascended? No, by vision, I mean a vision. Okay, that's what I mean. I mean a vision. So it happens in a vision. So, ar-ru'ya, as the Quran says. Right, so people need to get over this, you know, no, like it must be super miracle. So I heard a scholar say, I understand that human beings can't travel like this, but the prophets are not like normal human beings. Okay, I mean, if you say so, but then doesn't that also destroy the entire message of Islam? Then what kind of role models are they? If they're not, you know, well, the prophet's not a normal human being, it's okay. The prophet did that, but he's not a normal human being. So exactly. So these kind of things, and then it comes back to as well, you see, it comes back to things like reason. It comes back to reason. Because when we ask things like Jesus, why can't Jesus be the Son of God that was sent to redeem mankind for their sins? Why? That's an example. What's so absurd about that? Oh, because it doesn't make sense. Because why would God, if God wanted to forgive people, he could just forgive them. Why torture allegedly Jesus for the sake of that? Because it doesn't make sense. Ah, right, okay. Why can't Hanuman do certain things? Why can't Ganesh? Why can't Ram? Why can't Vishnu? Why can't these things happen? Oh, right, because it doesn't make sense. Ah, yeah, but if Hanuman can't fly and do these things and Ram can't do these things, but then you're okay with saying, but your prophet can do these things. But then they will say, yeah, but Ram isn't like any other man either. So how do you draw the difference? Like, it's okay for us to say that, yes, okay, but, you know, prophets have incredible superpowers where they break, but your prophets and gods don't have incredible superpowers. They'll say, well, why not? Our prophets and gods have superpowers too. They'll say, well, Ram could do amazing things too. So Ram did all those superpower things, and there you go. And Vishnu has the superpower to be reincarnated. Why not? Why not? Why? Vishnu is not like anybody else. So, exactly. So once you rule out other people, you have to be consistent. The Burāq is just in a vision. It doesn't make a difference. It's a vision. So there is nothing to worry about the Burāq, what it was. It's just a vision. Right, so let's move on. What other question have we got here? Right, so are these supernatural beliefs only in recent times? No, on the contrary, I think these supernatural beliefs are historical. Many people believed supernaturally in the past. In fact, most people probably believed like that. I think with human development, with especially with the post-industrialized era, with in the new age that we're in, with modernity, the rise of science, reason once again. You see, the voice of reason has always existed. The difference is today, it's got a major platform. But unfortunately, it's got that platform with non-Muslims leading, not Muslims, which is a shame because Muslims ought to champion the voice of reason. But they've decided to, some of them have decided to just become more stubborn in their, and oppose the voice of reason. That's like, no, you don't want to do that. But no, I know, this is, I got a bright idea. I know, let's go against the voice of reason. Oh. Well, yeah, but Ram and Vishnu, who said Ram and Vishnu are necessarily mythical figures? Who said that? You? The Vedas speak about Ram. They don't speak about Ram as a mythical figure. Ram was a real person. Shri Ram. Why is he, just because the Quran doesn't mention him, why does that mean he didn't exist? The Quran doesn't mention everybody who existed. The Quran wasn't like a census book. All right, we're going to start naming everybody who existed in this world, and anybody whose name I missed out didn't exist. What's that supposed to mean? I mean, really, is that what the Quran doesn't mention? Aristotle? Did Aristotle not exist? Quran doesn't mention Socrates not exist. Quran doesn't mention Buddha. Did Buddha not exist? Quran don't mention Confucius. Did Confucius not exist? I mean, what is this? What kind of absurdity is this? The Quran didn't come. The Quran was a book, a reminder for you to practice and worship Allah. It was not something to rule out mankind by. So, yeah. So these things, so Ram did exist. Who said Ram didn't exist? Ram, all these people, Krishna, these people, they've got, yes, how accurate are some of the stories is a different thing, but why would you be dismissive of these people? They would have been good people too. I would have nothing against Shri Ram. It's just that maybe the way the teachings that have been passed on may have been distorted. But why would you dismiss their entity? I was trying to, when the wings of the nights will keep your devils come out. I'm not sure what that... When did monotheism come out? Come about? That's an interesting question. I don't know in that sense. Obviously, from an Islamic perspective, we would believe Adam alayhi salam recognized and was chosen by Allah and was worshipped just one God. And we would believe all these prophets and Nuh alayhi salam and these people. But in recent documented history, the general understanding is perhaps Zarathustra. Okay, so Zarathustra is perhaps considered like the father of monotheism. And equally, one could say Abraham, especially Abraham with this tradition that we have. But in some understanding, people say also Zarathustra. But these are the kind of founding fathers in recent history of monotheism. Right, so, okay, let's take some questions, folks. What are we looking at? In Christianity, they started rationalizing away things they do not understand. They rationalized away their faith. Religion is how one worships and connects with Allah. When you tail away the miraculous from the religion, you take away. Oh, so the first one must have meant take. Okay, so when you take away the miraculous from religion, you take away the need for a God. That's interesting. Right. I disagree entirely. What this question, I think, was it Catherine or somebody asking this question? That question rests on a supposition that mankind's need for religion is one of superstition and mythology. I disagree. I think I accept that many people do only want like they do relate to superstition and mythology. But I think many people don't as well. So, and is God, that question can be reduced to God can only be understood through superstition and mythological beliefs. I disagree entirely. I disagree. I think, in fact, I believe that, in fact, the way to truly understand faith is through reason. And you said Christianity reasoned away. Well, we are not Christianity. Okay. Islam never based itself on such absurdities. And one thing that many early Muslims did do, alhamdulillah, is many amongst them recognized that this is about reason. And the Quran, time and time again, brings us to the voice of reason. So many countless verses in the Quran. لَقَدْ أَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكُمْ كِتَابًا فِيهِ ذِكْرُكُمْ. That Allah is reminding, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ, in the hope, or أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ, or آيَاتٌ لِأُولِي النُّهَى, or لِأُولِي الْأَبْصَارِ, or أَفَلَا يَتَفَكَّرُونَ, or do they not, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ, do they not ponder, do they not reflect, do they not think, do they not use their intellect? Time and time again. إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. We sent it down as an Arabic Quran in the hope that you may become a people of intellect. This is a verse of the Quran, Surah Yusuf. Now, so these things you can see time and time again. So yes, Christianity had huge problems. Some Muslims who followed that Christian method have led many other Muslims into the problems we're in today. So you're right, I agree with you. Certain Muslims who did follow, as the Prophet said, you will follow the Jews and the Christians. Many Muslims followed them by institutionalizing our religion and by robbing it of that natural fitrah deen that it is. So this is one of my message, is that I always encourage people to return to the Islam, which is a deen al-fitrah, which is a deen of fitra, that naturalness, and away from this institutionalized religion that certain clerics are presenting, this which is about power and sectarianism and control, and this kind of thing was not what Allah and His Messenger sent. This is what happened over the centuries. So Islam is a deen of fitra. Now Christianity in its early stage would have been a deen of fitra. So if you see Jesus is always reasoning things with people. He's always giving parables. He's always trying to get them to think, even when they're trying to trip him up. You know, render unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and unto God what belongs to God. I mean, this is Jesus. He is a man of deep insight, a man of deep thought, an incredibly intelligent human being. He's not somebody who is, and he's trying to get his people to do that. And I would have believed that they would have done that, but in the centuries that followed, Christianity became institutionalized. It became, as soon as it got linked with empire, and it became about the church, and it became about power structures, and about the councils trying to control it, it went down the drain. So that's the whole thing. How do you make sense of the concepts of the unseen world? Unseen world is not counter reason, it is exactly that, unseen. So it could be talking about anything, just using certain frames of reference that maybe certain people can relate to in some way or another. It is not indicating a reality. So let's say, as an example, like you've asked about angels. Angels, what do they mean? Nobody understands what angels mean. Nobody understands. And anything you understand is definitely not what an angel is. It's just saying. Angel just simply means that it is a mechanism which Allah uses to do certain things. What are they? We don't know. Now you could say, yeah, but I picture this thing floating around with wings and doing things like, you know, like a fairy, and you could picture that, but Allah never told you that's what it is. You could say, well, Allah uses descriptive language sometimes in the Quran. Yes, sometimes in the Quran descriptive language is used so people can make sense of it in their time. So I had somebody say, by the way, somebody sent me a clip where somebody's saying about me that I believe hell and heaven to be metaphorical. Look, I've never said that. So, I mean, this is once again a mis-attribution to me. Just people, you know, I mean, maybe some people, maybe that person sincerely is misattributing it to me, but generally because I've got a lot of haters, people misattribute everything to me. I've said I believe in an afterlife. We as Muslims believe in an afterlife. How does the afterlife continue? What I've said is in the Quran. The descriptive language given in the Quran is simply a frames of some relatability. It is not saying that that is what it will be like. In fact, the Prophet himself said that al-Jannah, that ma la aynun ra'at, not a single eye could ever see, has seen. Wala udhnun sami'at, and neither has anybody ever heard. Wala khatara bi bali basharin qat, and never has a human ever even conceptualized Jannah, the afterlife. So when you think of trees and gardens, and Jannah, by the way, means the garden. It means the garden. Today when people say heaven, that's more a Christian thing that's come into Islam. Heaven like that. Heaven more to do with the sky. But for the Arabs in the Quran, it was more about Jannah, the garden. A bit like how the Vikings had Valhalla, the great feast and the great halls and the valleys. And so the Arabs, they had Jannah, the garden, because they lived in deserts. And the garden was something that they always desired. So, and now we obviously say heaven and think of clouds because of the Western influence on us. Because here, heaven, cielo, like in Spanish or other things, like whether it's the sky, and this is why people translate sometimes when the heavens above, the skies above. But sama in Arabic is the sky, samawat. It is not jannat. Jannah is gardens. Samawat is the skies. So when you're reading through the Quran and they translate it as the heavens above, they're not talking about heaven like paradise heaven. This is the word referring to the skies above. So we've got huge confusion. Like, so Muslims, we think heaven, like we get this picture like, oh, like the Christian picture, like clouds and stuff like this. But the Arabs never had that picture. When they read the Quran, the companions, the Sahaba, they always thought gardens. Because that's what Jannah actually means. So, and then, you see, but what I've said is that, yes, why did Allah use this wording with them? Because they could relate to it. Does it mean it actually is a garden? No, it doesn't mean that it has to actually be a garden. We don't know what it is. It's as simple as that. We don't know what it is. Does it have to be a garden with shade? Because look, the Arabs, to them, shade was something they wanted. Now, if you live in a freezing country, why would shade be appealing to you? It wouldn't. You'd be like, what the hell? I don't want to be in shade. You know, like rivers of alcohol. Why would rivers of alcohol... I'll be honest with you, rivers of alcohol are not appealing to me. Why would they be appealing to me? I've been brought up with a distaste and borderline hatred for alcohol. Yeah, hatred is a strong word, but I've been, you know, conditioned as a child to really hate, abhor alcohol. So saying things like, you're going to have a river of alcohol, I wouldn't want a river of alcohol. But yes, because the Arabs at the time drank alcohol, they wanted alcohol. So to them, it was said. Now, saying that you're going to have gardens and fruits, and people probably don't, some people probably don't want that. I mean, if you live in a place that's full of valleys and gardens, I don't know, in Switzerland somewhere, you're probably sick to death of that. You probably don't want that. So, and you see, to the Arabs, because they lived in a desert, fire, the heat was always something that, and burning. I mean, all human beings can relate to the concept of burning. But I suppose if you're constantly exposed to heat, so to them this was this was something which obviously really brought home the fear, the fire of hell. But does it mean it has to be fire and it has to be? It doesn't have to be like that. That's what I was saying. So that doesn't mean that is the concept is the afterlife a metaphor. I never said that. What I said is these things that were mentioned in the Quran were just mentioned as frames, some kind of relatability. That's all. It didn't mean it was actually going to be like that. So it didn't mean that there's actually, it has to be, it's nobody, as the hadith says, not a single human can conceptualize it. So that's it, full stop. And people disagreed in their understanding. From some maybe have had literal understandings, others to this kind of understanding that I'm saying in general, in saying, look, we don't really know, this is just the language Allah has used. To some like Ibn Rushd, who said that, however, it's maybe more, it's maybe just, it's not, people probably won't be there with their physical stuff. It'll maybe be the ruh, which is like a consciousness as he interpreted it. To other people who felt it's also just about the ruh, like Ibn Abi Zayd and Ibn Hubayra, who felt that it's not about the body. Most people felt it was a physical thing. To some people like the Sufi Ibn Arabi, Muhyiddin Ibn Arabi, who felt that there will be no real burning, no fire in the afterlife. It is just a distance from Allah that is described as a punishment. So my point is, why are we hiding things? This whole discourse is the Islamic mainstream discourse of Islam. I don't know which one it is. I'm just saying that we just don't need to censor opinions. That's all. Let's just, this is all part of the Islamic discourse on the afterlife. So that's all I've said. Right. Okay. Let's take another question, folks. What's going on? What's going on? Right. If men will have houris in Jannah, what will women have? Houris. Right, people chilling out in paradise. All right. See, this is interesting, isn't it? Because you watch all these Molvis encourage people all about, entice them about sex in the afterlife, and yet they act so pure, like Puritanists in this world. What are these double standards? You know, it's like I remember watching a clip of a Saudi sheikh going on about like really long, you know, like one of those proper hardline kind of like Saudi scholars, and he wasn't a popular scholar, but he was just going on and saying like really, oh my God, and you know how we're going to have sex in Jannah, it's going to be like this, and it's going to be like this, and then we're going to have this, and it's going to last for so many years, one episode, and then we're going to have another episode, and he's really... Everybody, I think it was in some lecture, and everybody's so excited. I'm thinking, yes, you nutty. But why are you acting like a Puritanist in this world? I don't get it. Like, you know, like any opportunity you get, all you want to talk about is like having sex in the afterlife. So, what is wrong with you guys? Like, the way, like, you act like in this world, like all so... This is why Molvis have the bad name that they do. See, we know nothing about the afterlife. Here's a question. Here's a little spanner in the works, and I'm not saying I believe this just in case my haters have a field day. But here's a spanner in the works. What's to say there'll be gender in the afterlife? But it's a decent question, isn't it? What's to say? What's to say that there will be even gender in the afterlife? You know, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying I say that is how it's going to be, genderless, but what's to say? How do you know that people would have the same gender, like gender how we understand gender here? How? So exactly, I mean, you don't know anything about an afterlife. So what makes you think? People say, oh, many scholars in the past said it will just be a ruh. It'll just be the soul or consciousness or whatever. Consciousness, is it a man conscious? Does consciousness be man, woman? Is that how it works? Or I don't know how it works. So what's to... exactly. So people don't know about the afterlife. So why are we so obsessed on the detail? Why not enjoy this world that we're in? You know, Allah's given us this world. Why don't we enjoy this? Let's be grateful to Allah. Let's begin with that. You know, and Allah says, وَلَئِن شَكَرْتُمْ, if you are grateful, لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ, I will give you more and more. So let's enjoy what we've got here. Let's live life to the max, people. And inshallah, when we get there, we'll enjoy that too. How does that sound? So I think all of these things that are mentioned in the Quran, this is imagery. As I mentioned before, that look, the quote that the truth is one, the sages speak of it by many names. And I gave the example previously of saying when a child asks that how are babies born, and the way a parent responds by saying something like the stork theory, or they come from hospitals, or from the mother's tummy. None of these things are actually true. But does the parent actually consider himself to be lying? Like, would the father say now, as an example, that would he think I'm lying to this child now? He wouldn't think it's lying. He would just think it's a different version of the truth. It's a truth that you could relate to. If Allah was to speak in categorical truths to us, nobody would accept the message because we couldn't relate to it. So let's just say Allah spoke the truth. The truth is that this universe in which we live is colorless, is odorless, is soundless, it's insipid, it has no taste, it has all of these things. Color is simply the way light is being reflected. and then is being interpreted by the visual cortex in the brain. Color does not actually exist like this. Yes, certain materials reflect light in a certain way. That's all it is. Color is not an objective entity. It does not actually exist. Sound does not actually exist. It is just sound waves that are being picked up by your brain, and you are being told that this is what's being said. Taste does not exist. It is your brain interpreting certain and reacting to certain things. That's all it is. Smell. Now, all of these things. Now imagine Allah addressed us that this universe is actually colorless. It is actually insipid. It is actually tasteless. There is no sound in this universe. How would people accept the message of God? No, nobody would. Everybody would have just been like, ha 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 ha, look how stupid this message is. Exactly. So Allah had to address them in a way that they could relate to it. Because, so is this a lie? So when Allah is saying about colors, is he lying? Because surely God would know that really colors don't actually exist. But no, these are versions of truths that people can relate to. So the truth is one, but the sages speak of it by many names. And that is what it is. So yes, saying that the baby comes from the mother's tummy or comes from the hospital or comes from... These are not lies. These are truths that the child can relate to. And so in a similar way, Allah addresses us as human beings in similar ways. Right, so let's take some questions that have been submitted. Right, what's going on, people? What's going on? Let me just... Those of you just tuning in, I want you to click like, click share. What does it mean that one who purifies himself, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا, that yes, of course, who purifies himself, that would be who purifies himself from doing wrong in this world, who purifies himself from superstitious beliefs, who purifies himself from the shackles of disbelief, from the shackles of idolatry and polytheism, who purifies himself. So I'm just going to try to bring up some questions that person is successful, as Allah has said. Okay. Right, those of you just tuning in, right, people, I want you to click like, click share. How do you view the hard problem of consciousness? I really it's an amazing topic. I wish I knew the answer to consciousness. It's amazing. I kind of feel that the ruh may be synonymous with what we are referring to as consciousness. I also kind of feel that maybe consciousness is connected, maybe at a quantum level. I feel that there is a kind of maybe a sea of consciousness, a collective consciousness, and maybe it's more out there than in here, but we have the ability in here to perceive it. Like, just as light is out there, but the visual cortex in here tells us what we're seeing, but really it's out there. So in a similar way, maybe we have the ability to work with consciousness, to produce consciousness by what is maybe connected out there. And the hadith that al-arwah junudun mujannada, that the souls are kind of connected. And I feel that this, and hence we have, I do incline to a kind of collective consciousness. And hence in every era, ideas are mutually kind of accepted. And people are against things in a general way with the era of that time. And discoveries are made in similar eras and stuff like this. That's my kind of inclination. But Allahu A'lam. That's what I... people can disagree with it. Khalil Muhammad, ahlan wa sahlan, right? I've watched that clip that you've produced, the lip sync wagwan. I did find it funny, I must say. Those of you that haven't seen it, it's on my wall. Right, does Firasa Those of you just tuning in, if you can click share, please click like. There are hadith that talk about Allah having hands, feet, shins, feet, etc. Right, okay, Firasa. Firasa, does Firasa count as superstition, supernatural? No, it doesn't. Firasa simply means intuition. That we as human beings have a sense of intuition. I accept that. We do have a sense of intuition. I think creatures have intuition. Some creatures have far greater intuition maybe than us. And I think there's a lot we can learn from animals. Seriously, I think I really wish ulama would expand. I remember hearing Dr. Omar Abdullah speak about expressing his wish that if only Muslims would take more from sociological studies and other studies out there, from the social sciences. And I wish people would do that as well, Muslims especially, and from like psychological studies and biological studies and things where animal studies, because it shows us so much more about ourselves as well, because we too are creatures fundamentally. What's your reason in why Allah had only male prophets and messengers? I believe there were female prophets as well. Why weren't there female prophets? I believe Maryam alayhi salam was a prophet of God. So, and people, you know, can disagree with that, but Allah says in the Quran him addressing Maryam alayhi salam, and Allah addresses prophets, so she was a prophet of God. So I mean, so I don't think that there were only male. I think there were females as well. That's, but obviously with each time, you could expect prophets or messengers to reflect their societies. So if societies were massively or heavily, patriarchal, then a person that may be able to bring about a change would more likely be a man than a woman, because that society may not be conducive for a female messenger. But in societies where they needed to do something, it was the case, as it was with Mary alayhi salam. Ibn Taymiyyah's opinion on Maryam alayhi salam, I don't know. I know Ibn Hazm does have a whole discussion on it in his book, and he argues in favor of her being a prophet. Okay, so right, zina of the eyes, is it real? No, it isn't. And I spoke about this previously, and I did mention that, look, these hadith, I do not accept them to be conclusively established. But if you did accept them, that's not what they meant, if you did accept them, because it wouldn't be fair to just be branding everybody an adulterer. That's just not right, okay? And it's not, in my understanding, it goes against the character of the Prophet of God, who was a mercy for mankind and was upon khuluqin azim, was upon the best of character. So if the Prophet wanted to tell somebody, don't, and I think I'm not sure if I went through that one previously, but I did go through several others about, I'm not sure, but if the Prophet wanted to tell people that, look, do not kind of stare at women, or do not do this, or do not do that, he would have just said it. He doesn't need to kind of call them, like, be insulting. That is not from the attributes of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? So, and I did mention the other hadith as well, and about the perfume, and you can listen to that. It was in last week's episode. I was just checking if I did mention. I don't think I went through that breakdown, but I went through the breakdown of the hadith that where the Prophet said, "Kullu aynin," every eye that looks at that woman is a zania, and I said that's false, and Imam Malik said anybody who says things about people in general like this would be in his day and age whipped. So that's for general people. How could it be that we attribute such words to the Messenger of God sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And I did go through the whole breakdown of the hadith, and the hadith are not established, and all of those simply came through Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, I believe, and they all had problematic chains, and I go through that. You can check last week's class on that. Right, okay, enough of the drinking with the get a life. How will you de-radicalize a Muslim? I'm not sure if I can. Allahu A'lam if you can. I mean, you can. Look, people who have these views, hardline views of Islam, it depends, because it depends how long they've been indoctrinated. And it also depends on what factors have contributed to that. So there can be many factors, so psychosocial factors, other factors, things which just personality traits, people who are insecure, people who are frightened, intimidated, they're reacting to the environment. Usually you find it's people who feel insecure about their environment or something, and they have a lot of hatred within. And then they justify that using religion. So they need to kind of vent and focus that hatred towards an enemy, and then they're given this enemy, and they're kind of channeled and targeted and told that God wants you to hate these people and do this. And this is how it kind of usually works. And people are sincere as well. You know, they're sincere people sometimes, and they buy into this. And there's a lot of this, you see, my life is messed up because I haven't done anything for God. So people think sometimes like, why am I suffering? Why is this? And people are guilt tripped. Sometimes their life is messed up. Sometimes their life might not be messed up, but they're shown all this other suffering around the world. And they're told... and they're told that, why don't you, like, this is you're responsible for this. So the person says, why am I responsible? And they'll say, well, what have you done? And the person will ask, well, what am I supposed to do? And they'll say, well, why are you sitting here comfortably eating food whilst they're starving? You should be going out doing something. So eventually a person becomes so guilt-ridden that they might go out and just attack somebody, or blow themselves up, or do something ridiculous like that. And this is part of that process, you see. It doesn't mean they can't be stopped and they can't be de-radicalized. They can. But they need to work with people for a long period of time. They need to have a rapport. They need to kind of be pulled out of that environment they're in. They need to see the normal world. They need to humanize regular human beings, Muslims and non-Muslims, and understand that normal non-Muslims are, I mean, they're regular good human beings as well. So they need to understand that. Okay, so what? Right, I'm about to get interrupted. Right, one moment. Darwaza band. Up, jao. This is what happens. I'm never going to leave that door open again. Right, so I have that Firasa. People who have Firasa, look, I don't know, many people maybe have Firasa. It's intuition. Alhamdulillah. I just wouldn't, look, I don't deny intuition. I think creatures have it as well, and human beings have this as well. But I wouldn't be obsessed about this kind of stuff. So I wouldn't be like, oh wow, so-and-so's got Firasa, so-and-so's got... I'd just be, yeah, it's good, alhamdulillah, you know. That's me. Right, so why are Muslims so weird? What a question. Right. I don't know how to answer that one. Somebody asked a question about Sam Harris. Right, Sam Harris and other kind of militant atheists. Somebody said about answering. I think personally I do like some of the discussions that Deepak Chopra has had with him. I think they're really interesting. And I think they kind of weren't really too fit on Deepak really. Because in some of the... Because it's happened on several occasions, they debate. And I think they just kind of mocked Deepak a bit. But I really liked some of Deepak's kind of counter responses and stuff like that. That said, look, these people, I think Sam Harris in the last few years has become a bit, I don't know, like I think he's kind of become way too bitter and almost a bit rotten against Muslims. And it's a shame really, because I think his older videos are not, like he still didn't agree with Muslims previously and was obviously against Muslims, but he didn't appear so rotten against them and kind of like, I don't know, like kind of just spiteful. He didn't seem like, he kind of ridiculed certain things and laughed them off and did that, but I don't feel that he just appeared to kind of laugh it off as opposed to be hateful. And his recent things like saying, oh, you could justify nuking Muslims and you could justify, I mean, I find that kind of stuff, I'm shocked that a person like Sam Harris would think like that. And the fact that he is thinking like that is really disappointing. Otherwise, these people, look, whether it's Sam Harris, other people have not been that kind of spiteful against Muslims, like Dawkins or Hitchens or Dan Dennett or other kind of leading militant atheists. That these were known as the Four Horsemen. I think we can learn a great amount from these people, and we should learn from anybody. Wallahi, I don't know why people feel that as Muslims you have to hate them. Like, why do we have to hate? Like, we don't need to hate anybody. I don't think we need to hate these people at all. I think you can learn a great amount from people like Richard Dawkins. I think you can learn a great amount from people like, you know, whether they're Muslim or non-Muslim. You know, people say Neil deGrasse Tyson. I love Neil deGrasse Tyson. I think they do amazing. These are the voices of our era. These are people who are making history. And people think like, oh, you know, oh, you should, but you have to hate them. But they don't agree with Islam. Hate them. Relax, man. I'll be honest with you. You wouldn't agree with Islam if you weren't born a Muslim. Let's just be honest. Like, what is wrong with people? People sometimes keep going on about, vast majority, 99% of all Muslims on earth were just born Muslims. And if they were born maybe several hundred miles in an opposite direction, would not have been Muslim. But 99% of the entire, you know, the 1 point whatever billion Muslims on the globe, I'm not talking about the converts. Alhamdulillah, converts are amazing, and I absolutely salute them for their commitment to the faith, but I'm not speaking about them right now. And 99%, I'm not speaking about the 1% that have converted to Islam. The 99% of Muslims are just born Muslims. They don't really know about Islam, and they don't really, and the what 3% who are like scholars in the world, if I don't even think 3% are, but the 3% have been deemed as practicing, hardcore practicing Muslim. But even if you take 5 to 10% of the Muslims who are practicing Muslims, the rest of the Muslim world are not practicing. They don't pray, they don't do anything like that. So you know, so people say, well, you should hate these non-Muslims. Why should we hate non-Muslims? Why should you hate these atheists? Even if they hate Islam, don't hate them. Love them in return. Like, I think, like, why not? Why is your message, like, return hate with hate? First of all, they don't hate Islam and don't hate Muslims necessarily. These atheists, some of them may, but other people don't. I don't know. I mean, I don't think... I mean, I was disappointed. I did say I think Sam Harris seems to display some hatred. But other non-Muslims, Neil deGrasse Tyson, atheists, leading atheists, other people, even Richard Dawkins, I don't think generally in his interviews he doesn't come across, I don't know what's in the hearts, but as hateful towards a Muslim. But let's just be honest, if you were born as a Hindu or as a Christian or as a let's just say in the UK as a non-Muslim, you would not think favorably of Islam either. So just be honest with yourself. So stop this kind of bigotry of, oh, we must hate people. Like them, learn from them. These are the greatest minds. Unfortunately today, the greatest minds in the world happen to be atheists. So what do you want us to do? You know, it's like we're in an age where, and so... And look, atheist scientists, these people are just after publicity, but so what? What's wrong with that? They're after publicity. You think these Molvis are not after publicity? Let's just be honest. You think these Molvis are not after publicity? They're after publicity as well. Look, to these scientists, this world is everything. So why wouldn't you want to be famous? You would, because you only live in this world. For the Muslim, for the Molvis, is supposed to be the afterlife, but they too are all about the publicity. Let's just be honest. Look, let's not lie. It's true. Everybody's, you know, to say that, oh, I don't want this, I don't want any fame or attention. They're lying. Natty, this one, this one not true, you know, not nice, you know, this one. Because it's not true. So let's just be honest with it. Everybody wants recognition. Now, how do you translate recognition? It depends. Some people want it in the form of promotion. Some people want it in the form of praise. Some people want it in the form of money. Some people want it in the form of fame. Some people want it in the form... Everybody wants recognition. What does Allah say about prophets in the Quran? Saying, وَاجْعَلْ لِي لِسَانَ صِدْقٍ عَلَى الْآخَرِينَ. And those who come after us, make them speak good about us. So what does Imam Qurtubi say about that? He says that there's no harm in saying, in wanting people to speak about you. This is a human thing. It's a human kind of quality. We don't need to be fake. We don't need to... This is what annoys me. You know, this fakeness of pretending. Like, oh, I don't want recognition. I did this for Allah. Get out of here. Well, that right there is a lie. So, I mean, what it could be is multiple. This could be multifaceted. So people could be sincere as well, and they could want fame as well, and they could want money, and they could want praise, and they could want to do good, and they could want to bring about change. Human beings can have dynamic, multiple kind of processes. Right, so let's... Are South Asian claims of having Sayyid heritage real? God knows. I honestly couldn't care less if somebody's a Sayyid or not. To me, it doesn't mean anything. I've answered that before. To other people, it means a lot. To people like me, we're all the children of Adam, full stop. To me, you know, it doesn't, these things mean nothing. Race, caste, religion, in that sense, we should be, number one, decent human beings. Okay, so to start off with. And as Muslims, we should be people who uphold the religion in the best of manner. Right, if we're going to present it, it should be presented in a way that Allah and His Messenger, their honor and dignity is always first. Right, that is, to me, that is above these little things to me. It is above how many raka'at you pray, above how many voluntary fasts you keep, above any how much dhikr you do in a day, and how many nasheeds you sing, and how many people you call a kafir, and how many deviants you expose, and how much backbiting you do in the name of God, and how many, all these kind of things. It is above anything. It is above, you know, even the amount of tilawah you do in a day, your recitation. It is above everything that you should uphold in the utmost respect and dignity the name of God and his messenger. That comes first and foremost. Okay, so if you are somebody that is allowing Allah and his messenger to be denigrated, it doesn't matter how many voluntary fasts you keep, you are an affront to Islam. That's what you are. Right, so okay, the 15th of Sha'ban. Let's take a look at these, people. I'm just opening this up. Someone I know has been trying to get married for 2 years. What can they do to help the process? I think I've answered that before. I think they need to actually do something about it. They need to go out there, may take active steps, right? You know, I spoke to somebody recently as well. I think you need to make sure you don't get into a negative mindset. Always try to have a positive mentality. Try to be always, like, I don't know, always think positively, and good things will happen, inshallah. I seriously believe that. You know, I try to be a very, generally I'm a very positive kind of person. It doesn't mean you don't get taken down. You will at times, but generally you should always be a very positive person, enjoy life, be happy. Even if there's difficulties, try to, and people feel that charm. And then it has a positive kind of like output to it. And Allah, and in a hadith, that ana inda abdika dhannihi bi, and I treat my slave as he expects from me. So if people want to, somebody saying the law of attraction, if this is what you mean by the law of attraction, fine. I don't believe in it in some other weird superstitious way, but I believe in it like this, that it comes down to the power of the mind. Okay, if you are positive, and Islam teaches us to be positive, the Prophet would encourage people to be positive. A hadith in Tirmidhi says that the Prophet ﷺ kana yuhibbu tafa'ul. If he felt something gave off a positive vibe, he loved that. Wa kana yakra'u tasha'um. And he disliked, however, anything about kind of negative vibes or negative kind of omens or following. Dismiss any superstition, right? Don't think, oh, I'm cursed. Oh, I'm not, you know, people think, oh, I'm not getting a rishta. Oh, I must be cursed. Or I must have the evil eye. Evil eye. Evil eye, people, evil eye. Or somebody's done a magic spell on me. Oh, the evil eye. Or the magic spell. All this is nonsense. There is no such thing as this evil eye or these kind of magic spells going on, right? But yes, if you think like that, then bad things are going to happen to you because you've got a negative mindset. And people pick up on that. So people pick up on, you know, if you're a negative person, people pick up on these vibes. So they don't want to be around you. They don't like what you're giving off. So, is Kala Jadu, Kalima Shakti De. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. None of that stuff. It's all nonsense, I tell you. You know, and I came across, people are going to say now, you know, I came across somebody highlighting a book of, you know, you get these Muslim book of spells. And there's a book actually by Hazrat Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi Sahib, Rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy on him and have mercy on everyone. But he has this book on called A'mal Qur'ani, right? The Quranic actions. And really, it's nothing Quranic about it. Except the misrepresentation of these verses. So it's basically a book of spells on how to do kind of like get things done, and this is how you're going to get somebody to fall in love with you. Write this verse and write their name and do this hocus pocus, and I was and people have a whole kind of I came across this whole video on it, and he had one about how to make people hate each other. That you get the verse of the Quran, wa-l-bara بينهم العداوة والبغضاء إلى يوم القيامة, and that there will be العداوة والبغضاء between these people until the day of judgment, this verse of the Quran, and write it, and then write their names, and then bury this between two graves. And but I suppose you know, you think after hearing these things that the cult of Deoband, the hardcore cult, since they can oversee these kind of shortcomings and be very loving, that these will be a people of great tolerance. Oh, these Maulana Sahibs, when it comes to their kind of mashayikh, huh? I was reading actually, you know, there's a Maulana by the name of, somebody sent me a video clip, there's a Maulana by the name of Engineer Muhammad Ali Mirza, and he has this whole, he speaks in Urdu, and he doesn't belong to any sect, but he has like these whole kind of things brought up these issues. Oh my God, and he brought up some of these issues, but it made me think that, wow, that look at these issues going on and people can turn blind eyes to them, alhamdulillah, and I think that's great. Look, despite a lot of these things that, let's say, people like Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi, Sahib, rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy on him, has said, I wouldn't declare him a kafir, even though these things have been brought up. Some of the things that somebody sent me this link saying where, and it's a popular issue, where he's trying to differentiate between this whole Brilvi mas'ala of the Prophet having knowledge of the unseen. And in his book, which is called Hifdhul Iman, he goes on to say, he's trying to justify, and sometimes you overdo it. And this is why the verse of the Quran, وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنْعَانُ قَوْمٍ عَلَىٰ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا. Do not let the enmity of a people lead you to injustice. But he's trying to show that the Prophet doesn't have the knowledge of the unseen. But in showing that, which I think, this is an academic discussion, but he gets so carried away in saying, look, that the Prophet, he has, you know, his knowledge is like every Joe Blogs or whatever, because everybody has some knowledge of the unseen that another person doesn't have. But then it gets so carried away, and I believe he must have said this by accident, because no normal Muslim would ever say that. He says, or whether it's of a child or a madman or an animal, and you think, what the hell is he saying? And these things are clear kufr. That said, right, this person, obviously, that said, we would believe that generally this person would have said this, maybe not thinking, you know. I'm sure because the person was a Muslim who tried to serve Islam throughout his life. And it's interesting how people can oversee these shortcomings quite easily. They can say, "Don't, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. It's our sheikh. Our sheikh is okay." And this Mirza, engineer Muhammad Ali Mirza, boy, he brings out so many things. It was so interesting. But he said on this point that, look, even the Ahlul Hadith Sheikh Zubayr al-Izai agreed that, look, this is kufr. This is disbelief. Although, do we have to call that person a kafir is a different issue. Now, I would say I'm against calling people kafir. But I would say that, look how great the heart of the ulama of Deoband is, that they managed to oversee such, you know, that people would say this, they would be able to oversee these issues and say, Alhamdulillah, still, you know, we're going to, let's turn a blind eye to that. You know, because as Imam Shafi'i said in his poem, وَعَيْنُ السُّخْتِ تُبْدِي الْمُسَاوِيَةِ, that, you know, the eye of, when you look at something with hatred, it brings out the shortcomings. And it's interesting that, you know, some of these Deobandis were saying, what? No, nobody, nothing's ever critical. Why doesn't he, you know, they were asking. And I came across this interesting thing. It was in this clip that was sent, that, because people say, oh, I've said things. And they say, look, he says things, and, you know, they completely disregard context. Now, this was interesting. Somebody came to Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi Sahib, Rahimahullah, and he said, I had a dream. And he said, in this dream, my dream was that I was saying the Shahada, and the Shahada was, La ilaha illallah, Ashraf Ali Thanwi Rasulullah. This was the person's dream. So now, so Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi, he kind of responded, and this is in his own article, he writes this himself. He had an article called Al-Imdad, and it's written, I think, is it in the 1336 edition, or 1333, I think, edition, in the year 1333 of Safar. It's in that one, I believe. Now, he gives this, he says that my student came to me and told me this dream, and I interpreted it, and I told him that, oh, that means your sheikh, meaning himself, is upon the sunnah. So it's okay. Don't worry about it. And then what's interesting is he has another dream. This is a few years later. It's in the same Risala. He writes it. So, by the way, so Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi Sahib, Rahimahullah, marries one of his own female students, underage students. He marries a young, I don't know, I think she may have been like 10 years old or something. Right, 10, 11 maybe. So he marries an underage student of his own. He writes about this himself in Al-Imdad. So he says, oh yeah, because people must have said, how come you married this little girl? So he says, one of my murids came to me and he had a dream. And in this dream, he said he saw that Aisha radiallahu anha came to your house. Like as in to Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi's house. So Ashraf Ali Thanwi Sahib, Rahimahullah, said, I did its ta'bir, I interpreted the dream to mean I'm going to marry an underage girl. I thought, behave. What the? But anyway, I mean, this, so when I heard this, but this has all happened. So then he goes on and he marries this student of his who was an underage girl. And he says, well, this is because of that dream, you see, so it was going to happen. And this is himself, he writes this in, this is in the year 30, this is the edition 1336, Safar, the month Safar edition of his monthly journal called the Imdad. He himself used to publish it. So my point is that, you see, it's interesting when it's your own sheikhs that people will turn a blind eye. Marry underage girl? Don't worry about it. You know, Rasulullah? Don't worry about it. Disrespectful to the Prophet? Don't worry about it. Oh, but somebody else will have a difference of opinion. We must expose him. We must you know, there's a poem actually I just read the other day on Facebook. And it said, it was in Urdu, and it said, "Sue mein qada na jate, to kuch aur baat hoti." You know, if you didn't go in the direction of the wine house, it would have been something else. वो अगर निगाहों से घर पिलाते, तो कुछ और बात होती. If they had given us to drink from their eyes, then it would have been something else. It would have been something else. And then the poet says that, Go haram ke raaste se wo pahunch gaye khuda tak. That it is true that by taking the road through the Haram, through Mecca, they eventually reached God. It is true that by taking this road, go Haram ke raaste, wo pahunch gaye khuda tak. Tere ghar ke no, he says, Teri raah guzar se jaate, to kuch aur baat hoti. Now, had they gone through your street and your alleyway to reach God, then it would have been something else. That would have been something unique. So it's this kind of favoritism that when we have somebody who's our own, it's okay, it doesn't matter what they say. But my point of mentioning these things is that we need to at all times remain objective, inshallah. And dreams, we can't get carried away in interpreting dreams, because people, coming back to that point, the topic that I was talking about, that this thing about mindsets and dreams and all this kind of stuff, people give it way too much importance. Okay, way too much. Right, folks, let's take a look at this issue, then we'll come back to some other questions. What do you think about Buddhism? Does it have any connections to Islam? What's your take on personal, impersonal God? What's more sensible? Right, okay. That's an interesting question. What's with all the eyes and stuff being so mysterious? I'm not sure what that even means. I urge you to search about Brother John. Right, so coming to this 15th of Sha'ban. Right now. Okay, so first of all, there is a belief, a common belief. What is this issue? Laylat Niṣf Sha. So the night on the 15th of Sha'ban, which we are kind of embarking on. Now, right, so before, just as we're going into this, those of you just tuning in, if you can like and share, please. I want other people to tune in and benefit, inshallah, as much as they can. So, I'll just mix up my potions. To kuch aur baat hoti. Let's get this. So this, right now, what is this belief? So this belief is that the 15th night of Sha'ban is a very special night. That on this night, people ought to stand in prayer. Allah descends to the lowest heaven and asks people, is there anybody who wants forgiveness? I will forgive them. And he goes on to forgiving them, and he forgives anybody except somebody committing idolatry, mushrik or a mushah, anybody who's hateful. So that's that's unfortunately a lot of people. But putting that aside, so put these two things aside. So Allah is forgiving many people. In a particular hadith, as many people as there are kind of strands of hair on particular animals, or wool and fur, and whether it's going to be on a sheep or things like these kind of descriptions are mentioned in this hadith. Then there is an associated belief with this, that there is an associated belief with this, that on this night a book of decree is written. So all the people who will die in this year, so let's say from this 15th Sha'ban to next 15th Sha'ban, everybody who's going to die, his name will be written in this book. Or according to some people, there is a tree, and the tree has many leaves, has many kind of leaves on this tree, and each leaf contains the name of every individual who is alive on earth. So it's got, let's say, 8 billion 8 billion leaves on this tree. Now, any leaf that is going to drop on this night in that sublime tree somewhere means that that person will die. Another kind of angle to this belief is that the angel of death is given a list, Malakul Maut or Yamraj. According to the Hindu tradition, Yamraj ji is receiving a list of all the people, all the souls that he will be taking during this year. So this belief is all linked with Laylat Niṣf Sha, the night of the Niṣf Sha'ban, which is also called Laylatul Bara'a, the night of Bara'a. Why? Because either Bara'a from freedom from sins, or Bara'a meaning that they are then free or linked to this death, or they've this. So it is called Laylatul Bara'a as well. And Shab is the Farsi Persian word for night. So Shab Bara'a, or as is often said in Urdu, Shab Bara'at, and then in the more slightly packified version, Shab Barat, and then just sometimes Shabirat, or I don't know how they say it. So this is what it's talking about, the night of the 15th of Sha'ban. Yes, Yamraj is the Hindu version of the angel of death, that's correct. Yamraj, the gatekeeper of hell. Okay, so just in case he turns up. You're like, huh? Like, but I'm Muslim though. Right, so anyway, so what are we looking at? So first of all, let me just clarify. This night has no significance. All of these concepts that I've told you are simply superstitions, folklore, and false beliefs that have kind of originated and kind of spread right throughout the Muslim civilization with variations to them. So whether it's a tree with all these leaves, or whether it's the angel of death with this kind of checklist for this year, or whether it's a book with names being put into it, all of these things, whichever version has reached you, it is all fake. Okay, fake news. Hashtag fake news, people. Fake news. None of that is happening. So the good news. Let me give you the good news, people. The good news is Yamraj is not getting a list of names. This is not happening. No leaves are falling off a tree with your names on it. That doesn't happen. And then it would be a shame if you've changed your name. Throughout the year, you change your name. And somebody else changes it to your name. So your previous name. So the angel of death is like, he's at it. That would be a shame. And you're like, but so no trees, no leaves, none of that. Okay, these are all superstitions. So that's the good news. The bad news is life is still finite, and I guess you gotta go when you gotta go. So that is still the bad news. So I mean, it doesn't mean you're gonna live forever, folks. So do enjoy it whilst you can. So that's just a kind of overview. Now let's get into these details. There are several ahadith, right, that have come about this. Now, the ahadith have been transmitted from many companions, from up to 8 companions at least transmit these, beginning with Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu an, Abu Tha'laba radiallahu an, Abdullah ibn Amr, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, you've got Abu Huraira, you've got Abu Bakr radiallahu an, Siddiq, you've got Auf ibn Malik, you've got Aisha radiallahu anha. All of these companions, there are hadith transmitted from them, and 1 to others as well. But let's take a slight look at these people. What is going on? And some people have tried to argue that there is a basis for this. Let's just get that out the way first. Some people have tried to argue. So you will get people, including people like Ibn Taymiyyah, try to argue, maybe not in line with that whole story of the angel of death and the death, the annual death toll kind of story, but this night being a virtuous night, people have tried to argue for that. You've got people like Ibn Taymiyyah, people like Uthaymeen even tried to argue for it. I'm surprised. Being a Salafi, he ought to realize the ahadith are not sahih. But Anwar Shah Kashmiri, who said that وَصَحَّ الرِّوَايَاتِ فِي فَضْلِ لَيْلَةِ الْبَرَاءَ, he said they're sahih. Anwar Shah Kashmiri claims them to be sahih, who also claims the hadith of the second coming to be sahih. But this one not quite precise, you know. We will come to this one. So from the Hanafi scholars, Mullah Khasro al-Hanafi in his Durr al-Hukam says it's from the recommended actions. Zainuddin ibn Nujaym mentions it. It's in the Mandubat. It's from the recommended actions. And he mentions that ahadith have been established about this. Okay, so, and a popular hadith. Now, first of all, none of the Sahihain have any hadith to do with this. Okay. Not Sahih Bukhari, not Sahih Muslim, not Abu Dawood. There is a hadith in Tirmidhi that not links to the death toll, the annual death toll theory, nothing to do with that, but about this night having some virtue. And there are an odd narration in Ibn Majah. Okay. Most of these hadith are found, there's 1-2 narrations in the Musnad of Ahmad, but most of them are found outside the major books of hadith. So Bayhaqi does transmit quite a few in his Shu'ab al-Iman. You'll find they're transmitted in certain books of Zawaid and stuff like this. But a popular one, let's say in Ibn Majah and in Bayhaqi from Sayyidina Ali radiallahu an, is that إذا كان ليلة النصف من شعبان, if it's the middle night, middle of the month night, the 15th night of Sha'ban, فقوموا ليلتها وصوموا يومها, then stand during the night in prayer and fast during its day. فإن الله ينزل فيها لغروب الشمس. So as soon as it is sunset, no, it's definitely not in the Muwatta of Imam Malik. Imam Malik was clearly against these kind of things. Right now, in this hadith, that Allah descends to the lowest sky at sunset, and then he says, is there anybody who wants forgiveness? Is there anybody who wants rizq? I will increase your rizq. I will give you forgiveness. I will do this. I will do that. Now, this particular hadith, as you will see, is this is not only weak but deemed mawdu', fabricated, because it's from transmitted as somebody called Ibn Abi Sabra in the chain, who is accused of fabricating hadith. Many other people, Al-Mundhari, Al-Busayri, Ibn Rajab, all of them consider this weak. But what's interesting, people, is Ibn al-Arabi, the legend from Muslim Spain, Qadi Abu Bakr ibn al-Arabi, the Maliki Don, says, وَلَيْسَ فِي لَيْلَةِ النِّصْفِ مِنْ شَعْبَانِ حَدِيثٌ يُعَوَّلْ عَلَيْهِ. There is not a single hadith to be relied upon in Laylat Niṣf Sha. And he says, لَا فِي فَضْلِهَا, neither in its virtue, وَلَا فِي نَسْخِ الْآجَالِ, and neither in this death toll, annual death toll theory. فَلَا تَلْتَفِتُوا إِلَيْهَا, do not even bother paying attention to these hadith, he says. And then he mentions a hadith as well. He gives an example of Dinawari mentioning from Rashid ibn Sa'ad fi Laylat Niṣf, that on this night, يُوحِ اللَّهُ إِلَى مَلَكُ الْمَوْتِ, Allah says to the angel of death, take the names of all the souls. And he says this is ضعيف. Okay, ضعيف. And people try to base this on the verse of the Quran, إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ فِي لَيْلَةٍ مُبَارَكَةٍ, that we reveal this Quran on a blessed night. Inna kunna munzirin, that indeed we were to warn you. Fiha yufraqu kullu amrin hakim, in Surah Al-Dukhan, that on this night every matter was set apart. Now Ikramah and some other people interpreted that in this night every matter is set apart to mean this annual death theory, right? This annual death log theory takes place. But that is not from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But let's take a look at some of these hadith. And so one hadith is transmitted by Ibn Abi Asim in his book, and Ibn Hibban, from Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiyallahu an. Makhul transmits it from Malik ibn Yukhamir from Mu'adh. Dhahabi mentions Makhul lam yalqa Malik ibn Yukhamir. He didn't even meet Malik ibn Yukhamir. This hadith is da'if. Da'if, people, da'if. Next hadith, Abu Tha'laba. This hadith, Al-Ahwas ibn Hakim transmits it from Muhasir ibn Habib, which is transmitted in Tabrani and one, two others, not so reliable works of hadith. Now this hadith, Al-Ahwas ibn Hakim, is, what did Ibn Ma'in say about him? Laysa bi-thiqa. He is not strong. Yahya ibn Qattan said he is weak. Al-Jawzaqani said he's weak. Ibn Hibban said he's da'if. Ahmad ibn Hanbal said he's da'if. Al-Dhahabi said he's da'if. So this is da'if, people, unreliable hadith. Next hadith is transmitted from Abdullah ibn Amr, the Sahabi. This is transmitted in the books of Musnad of Ahmad. Ibn Lahi'a, Abdullah ibn Lahi'a transmits this. He says, Haddathana Huyay ibn Abdullah, who says, this is from Abu Abd al-Rahman al-Habli, right, who transmits this from Abdullah ibn Amr. Right, now, Ibn Lahi'a, okay. Right, Ibn Lahi'a, famous, very famous scholar, but when it came to matters of hadith, problema, mi amigos, problema in hadith, you know. He was a great scholar, however. He was a great scholar. But in hadith, this one, big problem, you know. This one. So, Yahya ibn al-Qattan, Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Qattan says, La shay is nothing, nothing, this one. Right, Ali ibn al-Madini and Abdurrahman ibn Mahdi say nothing. This one, laysa bi shay. Dhahabi says, Rawal Manakir, he transmitted munkar a hadith time to time. Nasa'i left most of his hadith. Nasa'i says, I only ever transmitted one riwayah from him. Abu Zur'a, now Ibn Lahi'a, he used to transmit, you see, some people say because his books got burnt and later on in his life, we can't rely on those hadith. So do we differentiate? Because some people have said, like Ibn Hibban did say, the Abadila al-Arba'a, when he transmits from these four Abdullahs, we'll take from him. And that was Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak, Abdullah ibn Wahab, Abdullah al-Muqri, and Abdullah ibn Maslama al-Ka'nabi. These four we will take. But otherwise, no. And that's especially if it was before his books got burnt. However, Abu Zur'a al-Razi, the Don of Hadith, said, La, when he was asked, he said, La yuhtajju bihi, we do not take him as an evidence. They said, is this before his books were burnt or after? He said, La awwalan wa la akhiran, not before and not after. So da'if. Right, now the fourth hadith from Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, this is transmitted in Ibn Majah. Once again, Ibn Lahi'a transmits this from Zubayr ibn Sulaym, from the Haq, from Abdurrahman, from his father. Right, now, first of all, right, the father of Abdurrahman is Majhul, and then you've got Ibn Lahi'a in the chain, who we've already discussed. So this one is problem, you know, this one is problem. Next, fifth hadith is from Abu Huraira. This is transmitted in Bazzar. Many of these ahadith are in Bazzar, by the way. Right, so, and in the Zawaid as well. So this is transmitted from Hisham ibn Abdurrahman, from A'mash, from Abi Salih, from Abi Huraira radiallahu anh. Now, first of all, Al-A'mash, Abu Hatim says he used to yudallis, this one would blag, you know, he would blag sometimes, blag it. He would kind of blag it sometimes. So if he does the an'ana, you have to be wary. And yakhlit, and he would mix up. Now, here, when we look, this one, an'ana, you know, he does an, so he doesn't say he heard. But many people said, look, you know, when he transmits from Abu Saleh, we should just accept it. Because we don't think he blags from Abu Saleh. However, upon closer inspection, Yahya ibn Ma'in says, aha, well, when we look at his hadith, as Ala'i transmits, Yahya ibn Ma'in saying, the famous hadith, Al-Imamu Damin, the Imam is a guarantor, wal-Mu'adhin Mu'tamin, and the person of Adhan who gives Adhan is a trustworthy, reliable person. Al-A'mash transmits this from Abu Saleh. However, in this hadith, he does an'ana, وَلَمْ يَسْمَعْهُ مِنْ Abi Saleh. There was a person in the middle who he kind of just dunked him and just slightly blagged the chain. But he got caught out on this one, you know. But he was a Sulaiman, I mean this Sulaiman al-A'mash, I'm just saying, it doesn't mean in every chain you have to reject him, but here is problem, you know, there's two people in the chain, him and the father, Abdurrahman. Okay, so let's sixth a riwayah from Abu Bakr radiallahu an in the Musnad of Al-Bazzar and in Ibn Khuzaymah. Abdul Malik ibn Abdul Malik transmits from Mus'ab ibn Abi Dhi'b, from Qasim ibn Muhammad, from either his father or his uncle. First thing is Abdul Malik ibn Abdul Malik, Bukhari said, this one not nice, you know. He said, this one fihi nadhar. We got a problem with this one. So we can't accept Abdul Malik ibn Abdul Malik. Abu Hatim said as well, not all that is not all that. So it's a problem. Let alone the fact that, you know, the uncertainty in who he's transmitting, Qasim is transmitting it from. Seventh companion is Auf ibn Malik. Once again, this is transmitted in the Musnad of Bazzar by Ibn Lahi'a, who transmits him from Abdurrahman ibn An'am, from Ubadat ibn Nasi, right, from Kathir ibn Murrah, from Auf ibn Malik. Now, Bazzar himself, who's transmitting the hadith, says it. He gives you the heads up straight away. This is da'if. So, Abdurrahman ibn An'am, Ahmad ibn Hanbal says Laysa bishay. Al-Hakim says he's not strong. Abu Bakr al-Marwazi says Munkar al-Hadith. Abu Zur'a says da'if. Da'if. Then the hadith from Aisha radiallahu an, which is in Ibn Majah, which I quoted earlier on to you guys. That hadith is transmitted by Hajjaj from Yahya ibn Abi Kathir, from Urwa, from Aisha. This Hajjaj, people, is Hajjaj ibn Arta'ah, who is da'if, mudallas. Ibn Ma'in said laysa bil qawi. Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Qattan said is matruk. Nasa'i said is weak. Ibn Sa'ad said is da'if. And when Bukhari was asked about this by Tirmidhi, he asks him about this hadith. Bukhari said it's da'if. Yahya ibn Abi Kathir lam yasma' min Urwa. He didn't even hear from Urwa. So people, there you have this understanding. There is no single hadith that is sahih in this matter. Right. Now, it's also interesting to note that sometimes a hadith, whoa, is that the time? Bloody hell. Sometimes it's interesting to note that even though a hadith can have many chains through companions, but all of them can be weak. Okay, so take note, people. This night, it's just a regular night in the book of Al-Bida' by the Maliki Don ibn Waddah from Muslim Spain over 1,000 years ago. He transmits this from many of the early scholars of Medina that look, that none of the people of Medina would give this night any preference over any other. It was just the same. And this would also apply. Abu Bakr al-Tartushi mentions the same thing. Imam Malik also wasn't really down with just introducing religious elements unless they were established by the Sunnah. So that's what I would say. That this night has no special virtue. if somebody wants to practice something, that is up to them. I wouldn't condemn them. You know, there is a difference of opinion. I accept that. Although none of the hadith are sahih, as I've clearly established, they're da'if, and we ought to really always go with the Quran was Sunnah. Quran was Sunnah. And be wary of just the opinions of people. Right, so that said, if people want to, alhamdulillah, I mean, you know, the deen is about rahmah and about accommodating for people. And if people have a need, and usually this is part of folklore religion and stuff like that, so people need to do these kind of things, that's fine. I wouldn't go around condemning people at all. Okay, they can do it. It's up to them. But I wouldn't advise it. If somebody asked me, I wouldn't advise it. I wouldn't advise it myself. Okay, cool. I hope that's of some help. It's been, wow, quite a bit of a session, people. Quite a bit of a session. I think we should really wrap it up on that. I don't think... Was there any urgent question that I had documented? Just trying to think. I can't really... Sometimes some people have asked some very urgent things, and I try to document them, that I will. There was something I wanted to talk about. I'll discuss that next week, I suppose, about things like cyberbullying. I've come across certain... I've seen things on Facebook, but I've had other people reach out to me as well. Sometimes that they're really struggling because people are trolling them, they're hating on them. I had a couple reach out to me who have an online kind of Islamic business, and because it's very Sufic oriented, so a lot of the Salafis were hating on them, and they were really trolling them and making their life a misery, to the fact that these people got really they were really kind of hurt by a lot of what was going on. That's an example, but there were other people as well that have reached out to me, because sometimes I face a lot of trolls, so they're curious that, you know, what's going on with you and how do you handle this. And so I would say, look, these things, inshallah, as time moves forward and the virtual and the actual are kind of merging and the lines are blurring, and our social media lives are becoming more and more like everyday lives for us, I would really advise people that, look, we can't stay... It's one of those, social media is like one of these damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situations. Please do try to keep a very healthy life balance. Okay? Make sure you do visit your friends, you chill out with your friends, with your family, have a laugh, enjoy yourself, take care of your health, take time out, do whatever you... I don't know what people like doing. Go to a spa if you like going to a spa. Go out, wherever you go, whatever is your thing, do it. Right? Take that me time out, chill, have fun, watch TV, watch stuff, do stuff. Don't just be immersed by this. Like, let this be an important part as well, because people are cruel. People are cruel in general, and it's easier for people to be crueler online because they can hide behind fake profiles. They can create false personas and attack you. Me, I'm very kind of thick-skinned as a person. You know, it will take a lot for people to get to me. And these people, these haters, they to me, somebody like me, they can't, nothing. I mean, it's all water under a bridge. It's like, in fact, I would say to them, you know what, that's not trolling. I troll them back. And I just laugh them off. And usually you'll see I'm always doing these kind of GIFs, or just kind of, some people call them GIFs, but these GIFs that I just put in return, just mocking them, and I just have a laugh. And that's how I do it. But other people sometimes are not as strong in their, you know, they're more sensitive and they get hurt. And so just remember that, look, block people. If people are trolling you, block them. And this kind of cyberbullying is utterly, you know, if people want to speak about haram, this is utterly haram. Wallahi, cyberbullying is utterly haram. And the shocking thing is, you know, once I spoke about this previously, and even today what I touched upon, you will get religious people sometimes, because religious hatred, as I read earlier on from Holloway's book, is of the worst kind of hatred that humanity ever has. And people, if they hate on you, like in the example of that couple, because they're Sufis, and the people hating on them are Salafis, so they consider them mushriks or whatever, so they feel it's religiously, they feel they're doing a good thing religiously by attacking them. And this is true, that they are some of the worst people. I've had people hating on me. You know, I've had imams in a group bully and try to bully me, try to do things, and they'll justify it. I've had, for example, conversations in a WhatsApp group, let's just say, or online, just as they will try to say, oh, let's share, like let's say you're talking to somebody and you might say something or you might crack jokes. They will say, let's share this to publicly. We wouldn't do it for anybody else, but it's okay here because God wants us to do this to expose this deviant. Like, let's say, so people say, oh, he's had banter, he's had humor, what kind of a joke is this? Why does he? Or people have said he's had these discussions on, let's say I've discussed a mas'ala about the nature of the Quran or something. I don't know, does this sound controversial? Not that it is, it's not controversial, but let's expose this. Or let's say, for example, I've critiqued somebody on a group. I've critiqued a scholar for attacking me in public. They will say, let's expose his personal conversation here because God wants us to do this. So this religious thing is the worst kind of hatred. And I really feel sorry. My du'as are with that couple who are friends with me on Facebook and anybody online that is going through cyberbullying. And this is why we have to understand is utterly haram. There are people out there that commit suicide. Seriously. Like, you have to just Google suicide. They kill themselves because of the way they've been bullied online. There is no space. It is anybody, wallahi, who justifies bullying, this kind of bullying, in the name of God and His Messenger, wallahi, I'd put my hand on the Quran here. This is the Quran. And I would swear that these people have betrayed Allah and His Messenger. Anybody who uses the name of Allah and His Messenger to justify bullying other people online has betrayed Allah and His Messenger. Right? And they will be answerable. They will be answerable in the afterlife for what they've done. And Allah will show them that. So these things, and you know what's interesting is I watched an interview, and you know, like sometimes you're on YouTube and things are just shown up, and some of you who are into Bollywood, you might know that there was a very famous comedian called, he's still alive, called Kapil Sharma. And I ended up watching his interview, and this guy went through clinical depression. Like, clinical was he had to be hospitalized, and he was suicidal, he wanted to commit suicide. And he was really funny, and he was like an overnight success, and within like 1-2 years became like a multi-millionaire. But what was interesting is I was watching his interview because I couldn't believe, like, wow, what had happened to this guy? And he, so he explains a lot of the things that led to this breakdown, mental breakdown. But what was interesting is his own words saying, like he said, look, I locked myself into my office for days on end. Right, now I just want you to think about this. This is somebody who rubs shoulders with top superstar, world-renowned celebrities. Yeah, like the likes like Shah Rukh Khan and these kind of people who are amongst the world international leading and highest paid celebrities in the world. These are people who are himself a million. You know, these are not like small kind of people. And he said, look, I locked myself in my office for days on end, and my friends came and eventually found me, and they said, what are you doing here? And I was just listening to this interview, and he said that they said, look, come out, you know, you're not a criminal, or you're not wanted for murder. I mean, why are you hiding like this? And he said, wallah, like this person said, you know, with emotion, he said that, I have to tell you that I genuinely believe that the whole world hated me because of what I was seeing on social media, because everybody was sharing things against me. And he said that I felt that the whole world hates me. Now it's interesting that this, I just quote that as an example, because you see, people who are getting trolled online, you'll get all these fake accounts kind of trolling you and bullying you and doing something like this. Right now, to that person, you'll see a lot of, and I see this myself, you'll see a lot of ganging up. People will try to gang up on you. They want you to think this is the whole world around you. So it's important, my nasiha and advice to anybody going through this, it's important to realize and to keep connected with the real world. First of all, these people are cowards. Just understand that. Forget 9 out of 10, almost 99 out of 100 wouldn't have the courage to say whatever they're saying in real life. Not in your face. So these are just cowards. Either just troll them back, block them, but keep connected with the real world. Keep in connection with you. See, whilst I'm saying this, you've got somebody called Kas Khan who decides to come on and say, sort your beard out. Now that is the example of a troll who just got blocked. Right, so now my point is, keep connected with the real world, and always be like, remember, friends, family, this is the stuff that life is made of. Enjoyment, chill, do whatever you're into. I don't know what people are into, but whatever you're into, do more of it. Live life, you know, like enjoy things, laugh uncontrollably. Seriously, watch as much comedy. I feel any moment spent in laughter is never a moment wasted. Laugh uncontrollably. That's what I say. Love passionately. These things, do whatever you do enthusiastically. Like, do not kind of enjoy life. You know, don't be these people who hate, it's because they have an emptiness. Don't let them get to you. So, inshallah, that's my kind of nasiha. And remember that, look, it doesn't matter how many people that you think have turned against you. Just remember, like to this couple, for example, who are selling things, and even if it is Sufi inclined, or to other people who've reached out, remember, Allah is with you. It doesn't matter whether these people, these cowards in their tens or even in their whatever or numbers they come in, remember that Allah is with you. Okay, because Allah is always with the oppressed. Remember that. And there's an amazing Ghalib really says this so well in a thing where he says that beganagi khalq se bedil na ho ghalib. That even if people try to turn away from you, don't let it dishearten you, Ghalib. Koi nahi tera to meri jaan khuda hai. That, you know, if you perceive nobody to be with you, then remember, at least God is with you. So these things, inshallah, take them as some advice. You know, may Allah keep you all safe, protected. May He shower you with His countless blessings and keep you forever smiling and laughing. Inshallah. Take very good care of yourselves. Till next week, people, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.